Hi everybody, I'm Leah of CJ Drill, and I'm here with Zillow today because we're going to install one of these. And what is it? It's a programmable thermostat. Now, it doesn't take a whole lot to install these things. 15 minutes, that's all the time you really need. And you don't need a lot of tools as well. You're going to need a regular Phillips and a regular flathead. And believe it or not, you're going to need a really tiny flathead and a really tiny Phillips screwdriver. That's what this is here. This is a torpedo level, only because you may want to level the thermostat case so it's, eye appealing. Now, the last tool you're going to need is this. Most cell phones come with cameras, and what we're going to do is we're going to take a snapshot of the wiring, so we'll know exactly how to hook up the new wires as they were hooked up in the old thermostat. So let's get started. Okay, so what I've done is I've cut the power to the thermostat. Now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the thermostat from the back plate. And the way we do that is there's a little screw right there. I'm going to take that screw out. Now, your thermostat may be different. Some just snap off, but this particular thermostat has a screw. So this is where one of those little screwdrivers come in. I'm going to insert that in that hole there. There we go. Now that exposes our wiring. And you see we've got our wire terminals right here. See how small those screws are? And that's why you need a small screwdriver to set those screws. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture of this because I've got 3 wires, okay? And they're going to line up with letters on the top. Okay, so I found that it's best just to take a picture of it. Now you can just, take notes if you'd like and just indicate on a piece of paper what wire goes to what terminal, but I find that it's a lot easier just to take a picture. Got it. Now I feel comfortable taking the wires off the terminals because I've got the wiring diagram captured right here on my camera. Okay, so let's take this first one off. Okay, so that's one wire. Okay, now let's get the last one here. There we go. I think that's my last wire. So all we need to do, I'm going to pull the wires out, straighten them up a little bit, just a little bit. There we go. Now I'm going to take these 2 screws off because that's what's attaching the plate to the wall. I'm going to use a regular flathead screwdriver for that. I'll just do the rest by hand here. Now I'm going to get the second screw. There we go. Now, one thing you want to be careful of is you don't want your wires to fall behind your wall. I've got enough wire here where I'm not worried about that, but you may be, okay? So just be very mindful of where your wires are so you don't have to retrieve them later. Now it's time for us to put up the new thermostat. Okay, so I've got my new thermostat here, and hopefully you've read the directions thoroughly that have accompanied your thermostat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the thermostat from the back plate. This particular one, all I have to do is pull it apart. There's no set screw. I'm hoping that the screws line up with the screws here and I don't have to drill holes, but if I do, I'll be prepared for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fish the wires through the back of the cover plate. There we go. So I fished them through. I'm just going to push these up. That's going to hold that in place for a second while I set the thermostat aside. Now, one thing that I want to say is before I attach this thermostat to the cover plate, I'm going to want to install batteries. Okay, so we got lucky because our holes are going to match up, all right? Now I'm going to just screw it into place here. And I'm not going to screw it really tight. I'm just going to get that screw in there because I'm going to need to adjust it a little bit. I'll tighten it up really well once I get the other screw in and I level it off. Now I'll put this one in. There we go. Now, if you notice, this cover plate is a little smaller than the one that I just took down. I'm going to have to obviously paint around that. Okay, so now I'm just going to tighten that, but I'm not going to tighten it completely. I want a little bit of play in it. I'm going to put a level on top. This is a torpedo level. And just give us an idea, indication of where we stand. That's good right there. That's good. Now it's time for me to tighten those screws up all the way. I don't want to over tighten because it's a plastic back plate. We don't want to crack it, right? That's good. That's good to go. Now it comes time, we have to reconnect our wires here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to refer to the picture that I just took on the camera, make certain that I'm hooking the wires up correctly. Okay, so I've got my camera up and now it's showing me exactly how the wires were wired. And so I'm going to use this to reconnect the wires so we know that we're doing it correctly, right? Because we want it to work when we turn it on. So this is going to tell me exactly what I need to know. Okay, so let's get our first wire in there. You stick it in the top. Okay, so that's in. You just stick it in the top of that terminal. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten that screw down. Now I want to make certain that it's cinched up really well. We want it to be tight, and it is. Now I'm going to move on to my next wire. And that's this wire here, and it's going to G, which is right here. I want to make certain that it's installed well, it's down there very well, and now I'm going to tighten that screw. That's in there very well. That's good, that's good. Now we've got one last one, and this is our white wire, and it's going to W, and that is right here. So let's feed that wire in. And again, we feed it through the top. I'm going to hold it in place while I tighten that screw. Got to make certain that it's cinched up really tight. You don't want those wires popping out. See, it wasn't cinched up perfectly. A little more. Feels good. Okay, so all my connections, they're all good connections. Now the other thing that I have to make certain of, you see I've got wires sticking out. That's going to interfere with my putting that plate back on. So what I want to do is I want to arrange these wires a little bit. I'm going to feed that wire through the back of the plate, have them resting a little flat. All right, and that's one of the reasons why you want to make certain that your screws are set very tight against the wires, because you're going to be, you're going to be bending them a little bit, and you don't want those to pop out on you. So now we're good to go. Okay, so I've got my thermostat, I've got the batteries in. Now all we have to do is take the thermostat and attach it to the back plate. There we go. Now I just have to push down, and it's snapped into place. That's good to go. Now what we have to do is we have to test it, right? And the way we test it is, well, we need to go turn on the breaker that feeds this thermostat. All right, so let's kick up the temperature, because we've got to test it and make certain that the thermostat is sending a message to the furnace. So let's get it up to about 78 and listen. There it goes. It kicked on. It's doing just what it's supposed to do. This is Leah saying, you can do this. See you next time.